The legal mess between Adore and NewJeans isn't just another celebrity spat, it's a crash course in how not to handle business, both for artists and their fans. With Adore filing a lawsuit to enforce its exclusive contracts and NewJeans firing back with claims of mistreatment, this case has spiraled into a public disaster. Spoiler alert, neither side looks good, but NewJeans and their fans, they're the ones who might need a reality check the most. Let's break it down. Adore's lawsuit isn't just a petty battle between a company and its artists, it's a crucial stand to uphold the integrity of the K-pop industry. K-pop runs on structured contracts and trust between artists and their agencies. Adore isn't trying to enslave NewJeans or keep them locked up in some exploitative system. No, what they're doing is ensuring that signed contracts are worth something. NewJeans can't just throw a tantrum and bail out of an agreement after they've made millions. Imagine if every artist followed NewJeans' lead, what would that do to the entire structure? It would crumble. Adore isn't fighting just for its own interests, they're fighting for the future of K-pop itself. NewJeans signed an exclusive contract, which, if you know anything about business, means they are bound by the terms they agreed to. It's not a suggestion. It's not a maybe we can back out later clause. It's legally binding. For NewJeans to act like they can just throw it all out the window whenever they feel like it is naive at best and dangerous at worst. Adore has every right to take them to court and demand that the contract be upheld. The K-pop industry has thrived off the idea that businesses and artists must stick to their word. Without that, the entire system falls apart. NewJeans may be young and riding a wave of success, but they're treating the system that helped elevate them with reckless disregard. NewJeans' response to Adore's lawsuit is filled with blatant dishonesty and ignorance of how contracts work. The core issue here is that they signed a legally binding exclusive contract with Adore, meaning they agreed to certain terms and obligations. Breaking a contract isn't as simple as throwing a tantrum and declaring it void. Contracts are built on mutual trust and respect, and when one party breaches it, as NewJeans has done, the other party, Adore, has every right to take legal action to protect their interests. NewJeans tried to paint themselves as victims of defamation, claiming they've already repaid their profits and that Adore is trying to ruin them. This is not how business works. Adore isn't asking for charity. They're enforcing a legal contract. They were the ones who invested time, money, and resources into building NewJeans into the group they are today. To now claim that the trust has been broken because they didn't like the conditions they agreed to is absurd. The statement NewJeans issued also fails to acknowledge that they had multiple opportunities to resolve issues amicably, but instead chose to walk away from the agreement. In a contract, if a party feels that the other isn't holding up their end, they have mechanisms in place for resolution, not just an impulsive exit. NewJeans throwing around vague accusations of defamation and malicious intent is a desperate attempt to avoid the consequences of their own poor decisions. They're trying to avoid the inevitable fallout that comes with breaking a legally binding contract, and their fans are foolishly lapping it up, as though this behavior should somehow be excused. In reality, NewJeans' claims make no sense. No matter how much they want to blame Adore, the fact remains that they are walking away from their responsibilities. If they truly believed in their reasons, they would have handled this in a professional, legal manner, not by attacking Adore through the media. The response is childish and completely disregards the seriousness of breaking a contract. They are not only disrespecting Adore, but also the fans and the entire K-pop industry that relies on mutual respect between artists and their companies.
The bunnies are an embarrassment to themselves and their idols. These fans are so far removed from reality that they're defending actions they couldn't even begin to understand. Their loyalty to NewJeans is so misplaced that they'll throw logic and basic business principles out the window. Instead of acknowledging that their faves might have acted recklessly, they're out here peddling the nonsense that NewJeans are victims of some grand conspiracy.
Newsflash: this isn't some K-drama where everyone gets a happy ending just because they cry enough. It's real life, and NewJeans broke a legal contract. Get over it. What's worse is that these fans don't even understand the first thing about how business works. Most of them are too busy acting like emotional teenagers to grasp the seriousness of breaching a legally binding contract. Contracts aren't some arbitrary document to be ignored when it's convenient. They are put in place to protect both parties, and breaking them for personal convenience is just plain childish. These bunnies have no concept of the consequences of actions like this. If this was any other situation, there'd be no excuses for this kind of behavior. Bunnies need to stop treating their idols like fragile little porcelain dolls who can do no wrong. They can't seem to understand that NewJeans are not immune to the rules of the real world, and they're making themselves look like fools by defending every illogical decision the group makes. These fans are so caught up in their little fantasy that they can't see the wreckage left by their blind loyalty. It's one thing to support your idols, but it's another to abandon all sense of logic just to keep them on a pedestal that they clearly don't deserve. What's really tragic here is that NewJeans' career could be over before it even truly begins. They've already damaged their reputation beyond repair, and no amount of social media manipulation or fake victimhood is going to fix that. They think they can ride this out by being dramatic and making themselves look like martyrs, but they're digging their own grave. The K-pop industry doesn't work like that. People remember. Industry insiders remember the artists who break contracts without cause, who make drama for the sake of clout. Their career is on borrowed time, and no amount of public sympathy is going to change the fact that they've breached their responsibilities. They're setting themselves up for a massive, career-ending failure. And as for the bunnies, they'll stick around, won't they? They'll keep worshipping their idols like everything is fine, even when the bottom falls out. They'll keep tweeting their nonsensical defense posts, ignoring the fact that NewJeans have absolutely ruined their chances for long-term success. They'll stand by them, completely oblivious to the destruction happening all around them. But when the inevitable collapse happens, they'll be left standing in the wreckage, looking just as stupid as the idols they worship. The bunnies are no better, they're the enablers, the ones who turned a blind eye when the signs were clear. They'll be just as responsible for the downfall of NewJeans, and they won't even see it coming. To wrap it up in the harshest way possible, NewJeans and their fans have turned this entire fiasco into a sad, delusional mess. NewJeans decided to throw away a legally binding contract like it was a piece of trash, only to whine about being victimized. Meanwhile, their bunnies are running around, spewing nonsense, defending them like they're untouchable. They don't even understand the basics of how the real world works, much less the serious consequences of breaching a contract. This whole situation reeks of immaturity, irresponsibility, and an utter lack of accountability. Honestly, it's embarrassing.